Hello, this is Jacqueline from Jack Knits, where I do instructional videos all about knitting and crocheting. Today's video is how to do a round circle with single crochet. We're going to make sure that our circle is nice and round. So let's get started on this project. All right, let's start our single crochet circle. There's many different projects in crocheting that you might want to start with a nice round circle. It can be the start of a granny square, or you can make a circle for the base of a basket or the crown of a hat. So many different purposes where you might want a nice round, perfectly round circle. So there's two ways to start a crocheting in the round project, and I'm going to show you both ways, and then you can just choose which one you prefer. The first one is going to be start with a series of chains to make a circle. So let's start by making a slip knot. Then we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to connect our chains to make a little circle. So we're going to do a slip stitch in that very first chain that we did. Slip stitch to connect our circle. And you can see now that we've got a hole in our circle right where my finger is popping through. And that is where we're going to be placing our first series of single crochet, right in that same hole. So let's do 6 single crochet right in that hole. So let's do 1 single crochet, and we'll do a second one in that same hole, 2, third one in that same hole, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so now you've got the start of a round project. Now you'll notice that you do have a little bit of a hole in the middle of your project, right? And if you're okay with that, if you like that, this is a great start of the round for you by doing those chains and connecting them. But if you don't like that hole in the center and you want to cinch that up a little bit tighter, you might want to use the magic ring method. So let's do that method next. Let's take this out. And let's do now a magic ring where we're going to be able to cinch that hole up smaller so you don't see that gap when you're done. To do a magic ring, we're going to wrap our yarn around our couple fingers here and just make an X over the back of your hand here. We're going to go underneath this first yarn with our hook and grab the second strand there, pull it through. Now you can kind of release your fingers, and we're going to secure that loop with a slip stitch there, and now you've got the start of your magic ring. You've got a nice circle there. Now you can make that circle a little bit smaller by pulling on your tail if you'd like, but now we can start by putting our 6 single crochets right in that center of that magic ring. So here we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now you can take your tail from your magic ring and pull it, and that's going to cinch that up, and now you don't have that hole in the middle. So if you like that look a little bit better, the magic ring is what you'll want to do. Okay, so that was our first round where we did 6 single crochets in that center of the magic ring. Now for our second round, we are actually going to do 2 single crochet stitches in each of the single crochet stitch from our previous round. Okay, so here's our first stitch. You can see the V of that single crochet. We're going to insert our hook on both legs of those, do 1 single crochet, and we're going to do a second single crochet in that same stitch. So 2 stitches in that first stitch, and that is an increase. So we increase by 1. Now we're going to do that same increase stitch in each of the remaining single crochets of this row. So let's insert our hook in the next stitch, do 1 single crochet, we'll do another one right in that same stitch, So 2 stitches completed and 2 increases completed. We'll do this all the way around. Another increase in the 3rd stitch. Another increase in the 4th stitch by doing 2 in that stitch. Again in the 5th stitch. And in the last stitch that we did. Okay, so now we did 6 increases, so now we've got actually 12 stitches on our round. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now here's a good tip. Since you're working in the round, it's sometimes easily to forget where you started your round and where you have to start your next round with your counts. So a good tool is these little stitch markers, and I always put the stitch marker then on this little loop on my last stitch that I crocheted, and that's going to remind me when I come around again that that was my last stitch, and that will be the last stitch that I'm going to need to crochet in on the next round. So please use these. This will be a lifesaver for you. Okay, let's now continue with round number 2. We're always going to be, to make our circle, we are always going to increase by 6 stitches every single round, and we can continue to do that until your circle is as big as you want it, but it will only be 6 increases each round. So the next round, instead of increasing in every stitch, we're going to increase in every other stitch. So we're going to do our first stitch of just a regular single crochet, just 1 single crochet. Then in the next stitch, we're going to do those 2, an increase. So 1, 2 stitches in that stitch, that's our increase. Then we'll do 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 2 in the following stitch. 1, 2, 1 single crochet in the next one, and 2 stitches in the following. 1 stitch, 2 stitches. 1 stitch, 2 stitches. 1 stitch, and then our last stitch, which has the stitch marker on it, that's the last stitch that we're going to do for this round. We'll do another increase. Okay, so now we've increased again by 6 for that round, and we're going to do the same for the next round. So now let's move our stitch marker up to our last stitch to remind us when that round is done. Now the next row, we are now needing to do an increase every 3rd stitch. So we're going to do 2 regular single crochets, and then on that 3rd stitch we'll do the increase, and we'll do that pattern all the way around. So let's do 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then our increase, 2 stitches, and then our increase, 2, increase, 2. All right, and our last one is an increase, our last stitch. Okay, let's move our stitch marker up again, and we're going to do that same pattern for our next round, where we're going to be doing 3 single crochet stitches, and then on that 4th stitch do an increase. So that is the sequence we're going to be doing round after round, but stick with me, because after this round I'm going to do something a little bit different with our increases. So hang on with us while I do this next round. So here we're going to be doing 3 single crochet stitches and then an increase. So let's do that all the way around. 1, 2, 3, and an increase by doing 2 stitches in 1. Let's do that all the way around. All right, here's our last single crochet and our last increase of this round. All right, let's move our stitch marker up here, and then I want to talk with you a little bit about what our circle is looking like at this point and how to proceed from here. Okay, now here's what our circle looks like so far, and you can probably notice that it is starting to look a little bit more like a hexagon, a 6-sided piece, than an actual circle. And you're right, it is. And the reason for that is that our increases are happening at the same spot on each round. To make it a little bit more clear, here's a little bit bigger project I did, a few more rows, and you can see that hexagon shape really being defined here. And our increases are always happening at this spot of every round, and that is what's making a little defined point there, making more of a hexagon shape than a circle. Now, if you like a hexagon shape and want that, then continue in this method for each round, and that's what you're going to get, a hexagon. But if you desire a more round circle, which I'm anticipating you do, then we need to do something a little bit different with our increases every other round. And that is what we're going to do next. We're going to stagger our increase on every other round. So this next round, we're going to be putting our increases not on these points here where we did it before, but in between those sections. So that is going to now kind of make our circle more round. It's going to even out the edges and even out those points and make more of a circle. So this is what that's going to look like on our next round. So the next round, we are up to now doing 4 single crochets and then an increase, then 4 and an increase, etc. But instead of starting with 4 single crochets and then doing an increase, we're going to start with just 2 single crochets, then do our increase, then do 4 single crochets and another increase, 4 and another increase. So we're always increasing now in between these little hexagon points that we've already started to establish. And then we would be ending not with an increase, but with 2 single crochets to kind of finish up that first 4 that we had where we started with a 2. Okay, makes sense? Let's show you what that looks like when we actually do this next round. So now we're up to 4 single crochets and then an increase, but we're only going to do 2 single crochets first. So let's do 1 and 2. And now let's do our increase after those 2. So let's do 2 in this next 2 stitches in this next stitch for an increase. Now we'll do 4 single crochets before we do our next increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we'll do an increase. And we'll do 4 again before our next increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, and another increase. All right, here's our last increase, 1 and 2 stitches in that stitch, and we're ending now with 2 regular single crochets to finish that round. So that was kind of our staggered increase round. We'll move our stitch marker up again to our last stitch, And now this round, we do not need to stagger it. We're going to do it again on the same spot that we originally was doing at. So now we're going to be doing 5 single crochets. We're always increasing those numbers by 1 on each round. 5 single crochets and then an increase all the way around. So let's do that. 5 stitches in a row. And then an increase. And let's do that all the way around. We will end this time with an increase on the last stitch. And here's our last increase on our last stitch. All right, so that round is complete. You can see it's starting to look more like a circle now, and it will continue to look more like a circle as we go. So move our stitch marker up, and now on this row we are again going to stagger our increases. We're now up to doing 6 single crochets and then an increase. So now we're going to start with doing 3 single crochets, an increase, then 6, an increase, all the way around and end with the 3. So you can kind of see the pattern going here, right? We're going to be always increasing our single crochet number of stitches by 1 every single round before we do that increase, but also every other round we're staggering that increase where we're doing it in the middle of our normal increase position. So you're starting with only half the number of stitches for that round. And we're only doing that staggering every other round. So let's do this one last round together just so you really got the feel for it, and we'll take a look at what we have. So let's do our 6 single crochets, but this time we're only starting with 3 before we do our increase. So 1, 2, 3, and an increase. And now 6 before our increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and now another increase, and another 6 and an increase. Let's do this all the way around. We're going to end with 3 single crochets. All right, here's our last increase of this round, and then we're ending with 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So now you can see that it's starting to look more and more like a defined circle than a hexagon. So let's continue in that fashion. You'll do now, the next round will be 7 single crochets and an increase all the way around. The next one will be 8 single crochets and an increase, but we're going to be staggering that. So we'll start with 4 and then do our increase, then do 8. So you can see how we're going here, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. I'm going to just do offline here a minute, just a couple more rounds so you can really see how this circle is defining, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, I've crocheted a couple more rounds, and you can really see that the circle shape is taking form. We have lost the hexagon angles, and we've got a nice circle piece. And that was because every other round we did that staggered increases where we were increasing not on the corners like we were here, but every other one, and then going back to the regular spot for the increases on the other rounds. So I hope that makes sense. It's a great way to produce a nice round crochet piece. A great start for lots of projects, like I mentioned, granny squares, baskets, hats, you name it. It's a great little tool to have in your crochet tool. So I hope you like this video. If so, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I produce crochet and knitting videos, instructional videos, and tips and tutorials, fun stitches, and creative patterns. So hope you join me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy crocheting.